courage. Courage is a big word, isn't it? It's very loaded.
Courage means to me standing up for what's right, even against opposition and even when it's difficult.
I think the LGBTIQA+ community has had many windows in my life that I've witnessed where courage has been very important. You know, I'm old enough to remember what it was like when we were fighting for decriminalisation and recognition, and that was a very courageous strategy.
What I'm reminded of is those who joined the protests after the first Mardi Gras in 1978, knowing that we'd had the stuffing beaten out of us up in King's Cross and 53 people arrested, but still came out in the biggest gay and lesbian demonstrations to date in July the 15th of 1978.
Mardi Gras, for example, an organisation that was based on protest and then became one of celebration, to accept an olive branch from the police, where once the police were locking us up, in fact throwing us into the building that we now have Utopia Sydney in, and now they march in the parade. But that's a courageous step from Mardi Gras, and it's a courageous step from the community.
During the AIDS crisis, I saw amazing courage and I saw amazing compassion. I think one particular occasion was during the Mardi Gras, and a lot of the patients from St Vincent's, from Ward 17 South, had been brought up on stretchers. And as each float came by, it stopped. They all got out and they bowed in sort of homage and respect for these young men who were dying, and sent them love, and it was incredibly moving.
We had one of the most effective responses to the HIV/AIDS epidemic because we had a community who rallied together, and going out to demonstrations where we were arguing for medical support and medical research to happen. So that's what compassion means to me.
Look, business speaking, particularly in this sort of broader footprint of where we are today on Oxford Street, I think, you know, one of the things that we can really look at as a big achievement for the businesses, not just gay and lesbian businesses, but that's very much dominated by them, has been that they're resilient and that they're strong. And we see that particularly, like, just for example, with the launch of the Pride Biz, where we actually came together and we looked at a way in which we could communicate a message of safety for the broader community. And so that was a powerful sort of situation, again, coming together, coming up with a great idea and actually saying, hey, this is a safe and welcoming space. It's a bit of a long-winded answer, and it's not one specific event, but I think we see it so much. And I've used those three legacies about the fight for decriminalisation. You know, we then looked at the health crisis, we then looked at the marriage stuff, and we've even gone further now and looking for that further legislative stuff happening right now here in New South Wales, and we're coming together as a team to take that battle on.
In the 90s, the attitude to gay and lesbian community, as it was called then, was very different from now. I sat in the Parliament last week when the Premier and many members gave apologies for the treatment of the community. We've come a long way. It's taken a long time.
I think the community needs to realise that the community is much bigger than what the community thinks. Like, there are so many people out there hiding and not being seen that nobody really knows how big our community is. And I think we need to remember that the walls that kind of keep us safe in the city need to extend even further. I mean, obviously there's a lot more that can be done. There's always a lot more that can be done, but we have come a long way in starting to see people as people, not just as problems. That's courage, that's compassion, that's actually understanding people is where we need to be in order to affect change, to get better.